It is with great pleasure and excitement that we now move on to another exciting unveil of the day, which is an offshoot of 12 to 15 months of extensive work to bring you a very cutting-edge toolkit called Winning with Data, the CXO's Handbook. This is an MMA Accenture initiative in partnership with Google, Unilever, Flipkart Ads, and We Serve Audience Pro. To kick off the unveil, I would like to first invite on stage Gaurav Anand, Chief Digital and Marketing Officer, L'Oreal, to kindly share his views on data-led marketing and data-driven outputs. Let's give a huge round of applause for Gaurav, everyone.
Can you hear me? Hi guys, I'm Gaurav. I'm the Chief Digital and Marketing Officer at L'Oreal. And I'm gonna try to do these sessions without slides. Everybody up for it? You have to pay attention. Okay, good. So let's talk about consumer data. I'm gonna briefly introduce the how and the why, which I think is the most interesting part for you guys. But before that, if I break down marketing overall into three fundamental buckets. One would be audience, the second would be content, and the third would be measurement. Right? So if you look into these three areas, consumer data is going to touch each of these. But in the paucity of time, let me pick the first one, audiences. Go to a marketer and ask them, describe me your consumer. And you'll see a lot of poetic flair. My consumer is somebody between 18 to 45, affluent. They are into high-end fashion and grooming and blah, 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 blah. And there are a lot of research, like socio-vision and stuff, which can give you a lot of psychographics about your consumer. My simple question is, how do I find this consumer? Let's take the brief, affluent, 18 to 45, high-end fashion. Let's start with affluence. If you're looking for 18 to 45 female, the traditional NCCS, AB, you're talking about 100 million consumers in India. If you talk about luxury, you're talking about 5 to 6 million consumers in India. 5 to 6 million in 1.4 billion consumers. And I think the biggest challenge in India is how do you find your right audience? And there are a lot of theories around it. One theory is, okay, let's do top city targeting, and we'll find the affluent consumers. I come from a small town myself, and I think this is the biggest misnomer that we are living with on top city targeting gets us affluent consumers. One, the aggregation of wealth in some of these small cities is so huge. And beyond just the aggregation of wealth, the propensity to spend is very, very high. Secondly, okay, let's assume for a minute that the top city works. I live in Worli in a very good condo, and I'm flanked by 2 chawls. If we are making the assumption that affluent targeting works with top city marketing, then that's the most convenient lie we are telling to ourselves. But why only affluent? Let me pick the target group audience. Let's talk about the age group. When we were about to launch long-com, we said, okay, long-com, we need high disposable income. Let's target women from 25 plus. This was the collective intellectual wisdom that we put into while we were doing the launch. In the first 6 months, we were so surprised that the bulk of the audience was coming from 18 to 25. The worst of all of this is affinity. I've often heard, let's target women who have affinity to beauty. Have you ever seen a woman who doesn't have affinity to beauty? It's one of the most ridiculous paradigms we use in finding our audiences. I browse a lot of Ferrari ads. I hope Ferrari is not going to be targeting me in their marketing. Just imagine based on somebody's claim on a platform where people are there to make an image or portray an equity, if we decide that our audience is based on that, we are up for bad marketing. So these are the challenges. What's the solution, you ask? The best way to find your future consumers is to look at your current consumers. If you have a small seed audience of 1 million consumers who have bought your product, you have enough AI filters just with Googles and the Facebooks of the world to find nearly 30 million of them. And this is going to be much more rational than the collective age-old wisdom of all marketers sitting in their rooms. This audience is going to be much more stronger. And at L'Oreal, we have seen the impact of this. When we are using audiences based on seed audiences, we are seeing 2 to 3 times higher brand recalls, higher message associations. And we are not trying to figure out all of this just in India. If we look into China, nearly 50% of media is now tracking consumer data. Closer home, when you see a D2C activation or you see an e-commerce activation, more than half of the money goes behind consumer data. So this is the future. But consumer data in India, especially with the CPG companies, in its infancy. And there are quite a few challenges around it. One, where do you store it? How do you collect it? How do you make sure it's privacy protected? It's consented? Should you be investing in a CDP? What kind of CDP you'd be investing? Let's at least have a CDS. So there is a lot of infrastructure challenges. But for a minute, let's keep that aside. The big question is, how do you collect good quality data? So now that you have understood the importance of it and how you could use it, how do you collect good quality data? But the better way to ask that question is, why will your consumer give you their data? And the answer is quality consumer experiences. Consumers are hungry to see good experiences. And when they see one, they are very keen to give you their data in anticipation that you're going to show them these kind of experiences again. Let me take some examples. What do you get on a DTC that you don't get on Amazon? Good brand experience, good consumer experience. And that's why D2Cs are the gold mine of consumer data. In L'Oreal, we tried a virtual try-on in makeup with Nykaa. Everybody who tried that virtual try-on, there was a 2x conversion to sale from the people who tried this. Last year alone, nearly 35 million times the virtual try-on was tried. But a good consumer experience could be something as simple as a very quality, dedicated sampling. It could be customization. It could even be a great expert consultation. If you really construct these experiences, the consumer is likely going to give you your consumer data. So you have to think about what is the value exchange that we can bring so the consumer is readily going to give their data to us. However, one caveat to this is all data is not the same. Now imagine I run a campaign and say, okay, whoever wins this lottery comes and meets my celebrity. What kind of audience you will collect at the end of it? People who are fans of that celebrity, probably. Will you ever be able to clearly identify any intent for your brand? No. So it's not just beating your chest around how much millions of data we have. You have to think about what is the quality of your data. So in the interest of time, let me try to summarize this, so then we can get into the unveiling and to the panel. And let me summarize this by visualizing for you a bicycle. The front wheel of that, which is going to take your brand to the future, is consumer experience. D2Cs, virtual try-ons, expert consultations, good sampling, that's the front wheel. Because consumers get excited about experiences rather than ads. The second wheel is your data-backed marketing. So how do you make sure you use custom intent, custom audiences, lookalikes, so that nearly 30 to 50% of your media is run by consumer data? And the frame in the middle is consumer insights and analytics. Without good insights, you will not be able to create good experiences, and without good analytics, you will not be creating good ROI on your marketing. Can you visualize your bicycle? So all the marketers of the future, good luck riding your bike. I would invite Monica to come so that we can unveil this playbook.
Yes, I now request, like Gaurav mentioned, Monica to kindly take the stage to quickly share her views on the report that we're going to launch. And Gaurav, requesting you to kindly stay back.
So, thank you, Gaurav. I think you made my job easier. You've really expressed as a marketer the importance of data in today's times, right? And which is also why we're going to unveil today the most awaited playbook, which is called Win with Data, the CXO's Handbook. Okay, let me quickly give you a very short background before we open it up for the panel discussion. It has been a work in progress piece for close to a year. We have been very curated about what we put into it because we do want to address the kind of gaps which Gaurav shared. At the same time, we do want to ensure that it benefits the marketers the way he explained it in terms of the bike being complete. And for the bike being complete, the data strategy, the data capabilities, the privacy aspect, and the business impact aspect have to come together. And that's what this book is going to do. It's going to bring all of these nuggets in one place for you to be able to really get a very 360 perspective and direction on how to do data-driven marketing effectively. We totally feel very proud of this piece of work. There's a lot of hard work behind it. There are absolute experts backing it. We've also had Accenture curated very deeply with us all through it, just to make sure that what we offer is only cutting edge. Having said that, do remember, consumers, like Gaurav said, are willing to part with data as long as they have control and a choice over their data. Trust is absolutely an important asset for organizations, and currently there is a huge gap in privacy. And privacy is a journey. It's just the way we've been talking a lot about data maturity. Privacy maturity by itself is a journey of its own. It needs to be refreshed, re-looked at, strengthened at every stage, depending on how mature you grow in your data marketing journey, right? And I do have to say that a strong data strategy is actually a blended strategy, where 1P data, 2P data, 3P data, all of them need to come together and make melodies in a beautiful symphony. It cannot be a silo, right? So, with that, it's time to strike the right chord and craft a harmonious symphony. To do that, we have Winning with Data, the CXO's Handbook, a perfect bridge and a go-to resource to take robust data-driven decisions, be inspired, and to learn from our experts on how to leverage data for real business impact. On that note, may I invite all our partners on stage to help us unveil the report, please? Nisha, you want to? Yes.
Thank you so much, Monica. And on that note, like Monica mentioned, I request our key partners who have helped us shape the report and support the initiative to kindly take the stage. Welcoming Bhaskar Ramesh, MMA India Board Member, Director, Omnichannel, Google India. Deepak Khurana, Co-Founder and CEO, VServe. Tejas Apte, General Manager, Media, South Asia, Unilever. Our moderator for the panel, Deepak Bakshi, MD, Accenture Song in India. And I also request Rudrashi Nag, Director, Membership and BT MMA Global India, to kindly take the stage. And requesting our key partners to kindly unveil the Winning with Data, the CXO's Handbook for all of us. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, congratulations, Team MMA. And some of you might know we have already unveiled the executive summary of the handbook at the recently concluded member meet. And today is when we unveil the complete handbook. I request you all to scan the QR code on the screen to get the access to the complete handbook? Let's put our hands together for Winning with Data, the CXO's Handbook. Thank you so much. And thank you, Rudrashish and Monica, for joining us. And now we would like our partners to kindly stay back on the stage and help us help the industry decode the wealth of knowledge in the handbook. May I request all of you to please be seated? Yes. Stand-up panel discussion. So that nobody sleeps, even the panelists don't sleep, yes? Ah, nice. Now he's going to sit on that. And on that note, let's take a moment and give a huge round of applause for this panel on the stage. Come on, everybody, people at the back. And on that note, over to you, Deepak.
Thank you. It's absolutely a pleasure to launch this handbook. It's been, as Monica also mentioned, last 1+ year of effort and thinking, and I would say thought leadership that this forum and a lot of others have contributed to. I sincerely hope all of you and the broader audience from MMA who will be the readers of this handbook will seek the value that we intend to deliver from this handbook. So what we'll do, of course, over the next few minutes is essentially give you a brief summary of what is in the handbook, try to bring it to life in terms of how some of the experts on this panel and all who have contributed as authors to this handbook believe the power of data is for marketeers in today's world, and how it can really change the lives of organizations, specifically in the Indian context. The handbook contains, of course, a lot of content. As you get your hands on it, we talk about how one should look at the strategy for data, collection, maintenance, enrichment of data over a period of time, first party, second party, third party, all types of data. We also talk about how an organization should look at the roadmap, if they are starting on this journey versus they are already taken a few steps or are at some degree of maturity. There are different steps that they need to take. We talk about that. Of course, we touch upon the topic of data privacy. Gaurav also mentioned about that in his keynote on how it's very important from a consumer perspective on what's being done with the data and how it is being utilized. And hence, as marketeers, what we can do, and in organizations, what they need to do with privacy of data. We'll talk about that. And also a key aspect is how to bring it to life, right? What capabilities you need within the organization, what ecosystems you need to participate with, or what kind of an operating model changes, if at all it's required to realize the value, right? That's all in this handbook. We do hope you all find it very, very useful. So on that note, maybe let's start a bit of a discussion here to bring this to life. Gaurav, you've talked about why and how of the data and the value of it, and we have a lot of that detail in the handbook. The point I have is, where is the industry in this, in the current state? And Bhaskar, question to you maybe to start with. Are we walking the talk? Or is it just a theory that we are representing in forums like this?
No, firstly, thank you, and it's a straight question. But firstly, guys, I just want to tell you one thing. This has been in the works for the last 12 months for a reason, right? bringing a collective point of view of the whole industry, marketeers, partners, platforms, it has been a gigantic task. Before I share a point of view, can you please give a round of applause to a lot of people who made this report happen? A lot of them are sitting in this audience and this has been in the works for many months. And yeah, coming back, I think we are not walking the talk. Let me share this because we did a lot of work on this. Obviously, privacy is central to our business and our users. I think, but when we come to our customers, more than 50% of organizations have not even taken a single step towards privacy today. While on the other side, 70% of Indian users say that they are really, really obsessed with privacy. They want their data to be safe. They want their footprint on the internet to be safe. They want their kids to be safe. It's actually increased significantly at around 70% of all users want privacy, but less than 50% of organizations haven't even taken a single step towards that intentionally. So it is a big challenge.
So are there some roadblocks you see? Is there any apprehension that needs to be kind of overcome?
Yeah, I think the first step is awareness, right? I think we all had it easy. Free internet. Users wanted free internet. Customers wanted low-cost acquisitions. Partners wanted monetization. And life was fine, right? That's the way it worked, and it sustained a great open ad ecosystem. But then user expectations on privacy has actually increased. But at the same time, technology to ensure that privacy-preserving technologies has also significantly increased. And the future is clearly privacy first. And first, knowing your customer, as Gaurav has just mentioned, as L'Oreal, maybe a few years back, you didn't care who buys your L'Oreal, right? Somebody should buy with that great advertising, and that's how it worked. But now he cares who's the affluent person in a village in Ranchi, is also equally important to know. So knowing your customer is important. But I think this awareness that, I need to have a strong first-party data strategy, and I need to know how to deploy it, whether it is marketing or business, is not there in most organizations. And on the other side, people are also not being intentional about measurement. In a cookie-friendly world, people had it easy when it comes to measurement, right? Like it was free almost. But in the future, organizations can actually measure the right ways. With a data-first approach, will actually have a much stronger lead over people who do not. So I think that balance of future-proofing your business in a privacy-first world is something that I think we need to collectively do a lot more as an industry. And I hope this is an effort to give a comprehensive understanding. And we have partners like Unilever and L'Oreal who have taken this journey many years ago. And organizations who actually did this well clearly have a almost 2x higher return on investment for their own spends than people who don't.
Absolutely, that's insightful. And on that note, let me just pick Tejas on you in terms of how is your journey and especially Unilever's journey have been with data. And I understand you've been using data significantly and have realized value as well. So your story, your learnings would be very helpful.
I think story might be a little too much given the time we have, but yeah, we at Unilever absolutely love data, and I'm sure there are enough current and ex-Unilever people in the room who can vouch for it. So moving from just some samples who do data for us to actually having the ability to know for every individual, I think is very empowering. Of course, it has to be done in a brand safe manner. The consumer should feel he or she is getting value out of it. So that of course stays important. And look, at least we are fortunate in some sense that we recognize this opportunity quite some time back, and the kind of things that we are doing right now is because people who did roles before me have been wise enough and smart enough to actually see this opportunity. In terms of effectiveness, I think the stats are fairly straightforward. Bhaskar said 2x, I have case studies which say 3x effective. I have also case studies which say 1x or 0.5x. But we know how it flows, so that's fine. But I think in terms of benefits, very clear. As an organization, we are focused on it. Where we see actually the beauty of this coming out is, one, as digital gets more and more proliferated and more people switch to digital, and problems of walled gardens become even taller, then one, first-party data kind of makes it easier for us to hopefully navigate it between different walled gardens. That's one. Second, with a lot of digital data being fast-moving, it's also easier for us to get insights that much faster, develop products that much faster, develop communication that much faster, and without actually burning the midnight oil, have good complexity, which will allow us to customize messages, customize products, and actually give a personalized experience to as many people as we can. I think that's what we see as Unilever in terms of what data can do for us and the power of data going forward.
Awesome. That's very, very insightful. Let's look at the other spectrum, the broader spectrum. Deepak, to you. You work with a number of clients of yours in different industries, of course, and at different levels of maturity. Have they adopted data into marketing, and to what degree?
Okay, so just to tell you what we do is basically, as an enterprise, we basically help other organizations who are looking for consumer intelligence so that they can make the digital marketing efficient. So the whole genesis of my organization, We Serve Audience Pro, exists to democratize customer intelligence for the marketing ecosystem. So we cut across many industry verticals, many industry verticals, and we started this journey about 4 or 5 years ago. So practically we built this category out in our space. Talking about specifically of what kind of business outcomes or what kind of business objectives, or so to speak, campaign objectives which people have seen. So when you think about data, the first part is really that whether it is 1P data or whether it is 2P data, it is critical for marketing. As Gaurav also mentioned that by and large what we are echoing out here is that without data, marketing does not exist. Yeah. Now, talking about real use cases, when we say, okay, everyone is throwing out the promise of data, how does it really translate to a campaign objective or a business objective? As a marketer, you'll probably say that, look, what are the use cases I'm solving? I'm constantly searching for insights. I am then looking to see that, okay, using the insights, can I make my targeting sharper? I am looking to activate that. I'm looking to activate segments across any channels. And last but not the least, at the end of the activity, I want to measure. I want to find attribution. So these are the 3 pillars which are constantly focused and looking at. I'll give an example out here that a leading pharmacy brand out here, they work with us. They have their first-party data. Now this pharmacy brand has both an offline presence and an online presence. It's an omni-channel brand. So what do? They put their 1P data on our platform, which is people who have gone and shopped in offline retail stores. We then help them decode that what percentage of the customers, the 8-9 million customers who've transacted in the offline world, have a propensity to buy online. So we're able to tell them that, look, out of 100 customers, there are about 20% of them who can possibly transact online. Okay. Now with that 2P intelligence, so now here is a case, 1P intelligence when it is scrubbed against 2P intelligence. Okay, they're able to get augmented insights. And once we activated that segment for them, we clearly saw their objective really was to get a relevant set of people to shop online, right? That was the problem statement in the room. So we could clearly see that, okay, we were able to give them a 20% lift when it comes to a metric like click to install, click to purchase, yeah? Vis-a-vis targeting customers, which is only their offline data, and just running campaigns on 1P segments. So this is an example where you saw how 1P and 2P came to the rescue for a particular use case. And it started off first with insights, then it moved into activation, and finally they were able to really measure it. Okay, that's, say, one use case. Second use case I want to talk about is that most people in the room, when they run media campaigns or they run campaigns, they're largely looking for couple of objectives. Cost per reach, effective cost per reach, because they want to really reach out to the most relevant set of users and they want a superior in-target reach. And there is another world out there, we'll say that, okay, look, I'm looking for ROAS. Okay, I'm looking for better performance, so to speak. Yeah. So we took an example out here that, one of our partners, Bajaj Consumer Care, they came to us with a problem statement. Okay, of targeting. So we were able to give them a very relevant cohort of users. And interestingly, what we did was we gave them unduplicated reach across YouTube and Meta. Okay? So the problem statement in the room is that, look, I can go and run a campaign on YouTube. I can go and run a campaign on Meta. And the assumption is that, okay, there will be some percentage of users where there will be an overlap. Yeah? So here, by eliminating, or by offering unduplicated reach, there was savings to them. Okay? And aside from that, using the 2P segments, they also saw a 3x lift when it comes to engagement rates. Basically, that case study, you will also find it in the report. Yeah. So this is another example where you're talking about business objective or a campaign objective of unduplicated reach. Yeah. Third use case I'm going to refer out here. There is a brand out there, say QSR brand, selling pizzas online. Okay. They go to a channel like Meta and they utilize the platform segments. And through that process of running campaigns, they were getting an order value of 380 rupees from a customer. Okay. They came to us, we said, look, you can now use 2P segments from our partners. We'll bring these 2P segments and activate them on Meta. And we were able to then take their first order value from 380 to 600. So we were able to give them a 60% lift of the first order value. And what it meant was there was a 60% lift on the first order value and there was a 20% improvement in ROAS. So in all these three use cases, I've just tried to highlight, how marketing organizations, right from an omni-channel brand to an FMCG brand or to a QSR brand, okay, how they leverage the data. Having said that, so we work with 50, 80 brands and we are constantly doing great amount of work. But I also would like to echo another sentiment out here as Bhaskar was making a mention out there, that look, still, there is miles to go, okay? Because the understanding of data-driven marketing in the room is still not democratized. To a point that I would say that, I'll give an example. If I go to a CMO or a CXO and I tell him that let's talk about a data-driven marketing solution. Let's see what the architecture should be, how things should really play out. You know what? It gets downstreamed. Okay, it gets downstreamed because maybe to the CMO, it is cooler and sexier to speak about content and speak about ad creatives and speak about how the creatives are doing well and talk about their new TV campaign. But talking about data, talking about the architecture around it, and talking about saying that what can go in trying to build this ecosystem, I probably feel that they shy away. Yeah, I think they should not shy away. They should not. They should do, in my words, full funnel conversations with partners. They should not just do, okay, I get the top view, but they should be involved in the full funnel conversations because this is an important capability for an organization, not just for a marketing organization.
No, absolutely. And I think that's what this handbook essentially tries to focus on. Bring in these use cases to life and also demonstrates that value that yes, investing in data, utilizing it for targeting marketing more effectively is got a business value to it. And it's a conversation to be had. It's not a conversation to be shied away from in a way.
It's a very critical area because it can lead into new product development. It can give you a lot of insights into saying that what product variants are working in the market, what are not working in the market. So it's a fairly essential topic. But I think that the importance in organization at a CEO, CXO level, at a CMO level, this has to gain much more very critical rather than it being one of the many things.
Yeah, I just want to build on this point, and I genuinely, from my vantage point, I really think data is not a CMO conversation, right? I think data is a CEO conversation. In every organization where data is not a CEO conversation, it is not unlocking at the full potential at all. I want to give you an example just to build on the use case on say a consumer loan company like Bajaj or any other bank, for example, right? Now, internet has reached a population scale right now, right? Everybody, payments becoming, world's greatest and all that. So everybody with a mobile phone needs credit as well. But the number of people with a CIBIL score higher than 750, where everybody is queuing up to give a loan, are in less than 10, 15 million at best. People who can repay that loan as per the traditional norms. However, if you look at their payments data, right, their historic, all other aspects, there could be another 100 million people whom all these fintech companies and banks with better data can actually give more loans. And trust me, there is data to prove that the guy who takes who does not have a credit profile but takes a small loan has a higher propensity to repay, right, and not default. Small loans will become, medium loans will become like bigger loans over a period of time. So when data becomes a CEO conversation, again, the whole vector changes to the investments in data infrastructure are actually far more significant, and business results are far more significant. Of course, marketing becomes a growth engine.
The unlock is much more bigger as what we see. Absolutely. So let's also just kind of discuss a little bit in terms of what it takes to go there, right? And Gaurav, you talked about some examples, but it'll be interesting to know the organizations are spread across the spectrum. There are 50% or so, as we discussed, who have not even started on this journey and not thinking seriously, and others who are some way or the other on this journey. So what does it take? What capabilities are we talking about? What enables an organization to get onto this data journey?
I think a change happens only when the people and organization get behind it. So I would say three things. First, the traditional way of working in silos is being challenged. And that's one of the biggest handicaps of big MNC companies. Just taking L'Oreal example. When we cracked e-commerce, we really thought very differently. We created tribes around our customers. And that had all the divisions and all the functions in it, and we worked together. Okay, we have to talk about Amazon, we have to talk about Nike. Data requires a similar approach. How do we make sure that it is not thought about in silos, and how do we think about it across? And honestly, that's one of the reasons why smaller companies are getting their act right faster than some of the bigger ones. The second is partnership. I think now this has dawned onto everybody that consumer data is important, but everybody is trying to create their own mountains. Nobody will ever have data on consumers where they will know everything about their consumer. So unless people start getting into partnerships, this is not really going to be taking off for anybody. And the third, the step one to get started on this, a lot of organizations have a lot of data, but that data is not talking to each other, right? So I'll give you an example. In my previous role, I was working with SK2. SK2 is a $1 billion skincare luxury premium brand. We had our shop in shops. So in practical, we had data of every consumer who had bought us anywhere in the world. We were sitting on it. It was sitting somewhere, but we had no idea on how to use it. So step one is to get started on a very basic data infrastructure, where you make sure all the data collected has the consent, and you're storing it in the right way, and you're marrying data from different areas and putting it all together. That can really give a leapfrog jump to companies starting, because it's not like the companies are sitting without any data.
Cool. Very, very relevant. An open question to all of you as we kind of close on the discussion on our side, and I'll check if audience has some questions, we'll take that as well. While we've talked about the fundamentals of the importance of data, how to get there, what's the value, different use cases, and so on, the space is not stagnant, right? This is a continuous evolution. We see technology evolving at a very fast pace, faster than ever. The consumer expectations have significantly evolved and continue to be on an uphill trajectory. How do you see this entire data-driven marketing space evolving? What should a CXO, CEOs, CMOs essentially look up to in the near future on this?
I think the way this is going to evolve, and as more and more tech comes in, is the company who has really high quality data, so assume depth of data, and also width of data, which is the quantum of data, I think is best placed to win. And I'm saying best place, not necessarily winning, Because having data is one thing, harnessing it wisely is the other thing, right? So I think having that data is what people can do like us. I think harnessing is where the tech will come in, and where we look for partnerships on what's the best way for us to draw insights from that, what's the best way for us to deploy the data. I think all of that will be then down to partners and how that space evolves. That's how I see it. But I mean, data is marketing, honestly, in a few years from now.
Yeah. So I think there is a fairly established playbook on how to embrace this. That playbook is written in this handbook. So would encourage all of you to take a look at that. It's called Build, Measure, and Activate. Build is something what Gaurav has already mentioned. You have data sitting in different silos. Do you have it organized in a meaningful way, in a consensual way, with all the right permissions and privacy-safe infrastructure? Because believe you me, even one thing you have missed out is regulation, right? Whether it is CCPA in US or whether it is in in GDPR in Europe, clearly this is evolving. So it's very important to build a direct connection with your users and have a data lake or data infrastructure in a meaningful way. Second is to measure. So you need to connect how you measure with the data with your measurement techniques that you have. So you are able to kind of begin with what success looks like, whether this is working or not. That is important to look at. And then the third is really activating. And because the data infrastructure is so vast, it could be overwhelming to deploy this data with meaningful audience insights. And that's where AI-powered advertising comes to rescue. And you can potentially, advertise to, hundreds, thousands, or even 1 million unique consumers with relevant communication. And I think that flywheel will clearly deliver better ROI across brands. So I think that's the way it is evolving, and I hope more and more people leverage this.
It's a journey. It's a journey. You have to start somewhere on a bicycle, I think.
No, I think if I had to add to what Tejas and Bhaskar said, this is inevitable. We have seen this in other markets. So either you build capability or you pay for the capability later. So either you allocate X percentage of your top line to build capability now, or you will pay X percentage of your top line to pay for this later, right? What is very critical is to make sure not try to build this alone. Because just think about a consumer who's buying your product is buying probably 20 other products, right? Is shopping in 10 different places. So it is very important to build this with the ecosystem, with the right set of partners, rather than trying to be very internally focused on thinking, I will be the sole proprietor of all the consumer data.
Absolutely. Very well said. Deepak?
Okay, most of the points which my fellow panel members, I'm trying to add value to it. So one part which tells me is that firstly, as a culture, have ethical collection of data. Okay, very important, guys. I'm going to use an example out here, which will probably just surprise everyone. We spoke to a very leading FMCG company managed by a leading agency platform. Okay, they run campaigns on programmatic platforms. Okay, and then they insist to the partners that the IDFA IDs to whom users, the exposures have happened, that should come to them. They define that as first party data. This is bizarre. Okay, this is a leading FMCG company represented by a leading agency group saying that, listen, you run the campaign digitally. Users who are exposed to the campaign programmatically, I should get the IDFAs of it. Okay, it is unethical, unacceptable. Just because you've got dollars to throw at partners, you can't demand that. Yeah. So very important that organizations are able to tell their teams that what is ethical way of collecting data. Very, very important. The second aspect is legitimate use of alternate data. So when you're working with partners, when Gaurav is making a mention that, listen, you're going to work with partners, you're going to borrow intelligence and use that intelligence. Spend time in decoding what kind of architecture they have, what methods they have, how do they onboard that, what is their tech architecture. Get the complete comfort that they have a very legit privacy first approach where no storage is happening of data anywhere, no leakage is happening anywhere. The partners from which the segments are being sourced, they have the appropriate user consent, okay? All that comes into the system so that there is a very legit use of that, okay? That's the second point I would like to land. And last but not the least, this is to everyone in the room, whether it is CXOs, CMOs, stressing on the point of partnership. Go with that mindset. Go with the mindset that you're the most curious person in the room, not the smartest person in the room. If you're the most curious person in the room and you bring together a bunch of relevant people, more often than not, that group is going to come off on the brighter side of things. Yeah. So that's how I would like to end it.
Absolutely. Well summarized, Deepak. I think that's all we have time for. The time's up, clock is already there. So we'll not be able to take audience questions. But yes, the panel is here. And of course, the handbook
conversation is very interesting. We can take audience questions. I'm sure they're eager to ask us.
Yeah. But the handbook, of course, has a lot more details, use cases, and what needs to be done in a very pragmatic way listed out there. So of course, we'll look up to your feedback as well and connect offline with the dais. Thank you so much.
Thank you.